Our sponsors for this episode are MTO Commercial and Residential Cleaning Services. MTO has been, still is, and will always be a locally owned and operated company. Paula started MTO in 1994 and has been serving Harvey County residents ever since. If you're looking for a one-time clean or a weekly, bi-weekly, or a monthly spruce-up, no need to worry. MTO gives free estimates. Give Paula a call at 316-288-9141. That's 316-288-9141. Is your AC or heating system just not keeping up? Maybe it's not keeping your home or business as cold or hot as it once did. It could also be that all you're looking for is a reliable, trustworthy, and affordable technician to check on your system and do whatever maintenance necessary to ensure it's working as efficiently and effectively as possible. If so, give Air Quality Control a call at 316-285-3304. That's Air Quality Control, 316-285-3304 for all your air quality control needs. Hall's Tree Service. Locally owned and operated, Hall's Tree Service has been exceeding and surpassing customer demands in Newton and the surrounding area for over 40 years. Larry and his crew are guaranteed to work hard for you. There's no tree too tall, no job too small. Call Hall's at 316-772-1919. Remember, there's no tree too tall, no job too small. Call Hall's at 316-772-1919. Well, hello everybody, and hello Andy and Chad. How was your guys' week this week?
Good.
Very good.
Very good?
Yep.
Busy.
Stressed but blessed.
Stressed but blessed.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been a busy week for me. You know, Chad's always talking about the car problems that he has, and I ran into some car problems, and so the car's in the shop, and then we play juggalaroo with all the different vehicles, and it's one of those things that you take for granted. I'm just going to say it. To go to your car, start your car, all the tires be aired up, it start just the way it's supposed to start and take you where you need to go is a highly taken for granted situation, I think.
And 99.9% of the time, that's what happens. But boy, well, don't we feel that percentage when it doesn't?
Yeah.
And it throws you all off.
One car
very,
down.
Very true.
Playing car juggle, you know, for here to, because people got to drive, you know. I mean, you can walk, but there's only so much walking you can do before you need to have transportation of some kind. So yeah, maybe we need to think about going back to them horse and buggy days.
No.
What would it be like?
Let's
go here. Let's go. Horse and buggy, right? You go out. What's the worst that can happen? Your horse doesn't what?
Sees a rattlesnake and good.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So there's mechanical errors on both ends or whatever. Yeah. So do you guys just before we get started, anything I want to do upcoming events? Just say once again, here coming up soon, we have the Newton Car Show. Well, before that, we have the Heston Bloom Festival. So I wanted to say something about the Bloom Fest. That's happening April 26th from 10 to 2 at the Heston Aquatic Center. You can go to hestonevents.org to find out more about that, but that was put out by the Heston Chamber on their social media page. It's Bloom Fest Spring Fair. It is free to all ages. As far as what you can expect, there will be bounce houses, games, arts and crafts, food vendors, activities, community resources, and once again, that's all at the Heston Aquatic Center parking lot and front lawn from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Another event that's coming up is the car show and cruise night. Cruise night will take place on the 2nd. In conjunction with that, on May 2nd, starting at 6:30, they'll leave the Newton High School parking lot, travel east down 12th Street, travel south down Main, and arrive at Midway Motors. Midway Motors is going to have plenty of food trucks and different things that you can have, so you can get some refreshments and some food while you look at all these cool classic cars, bikes, trucks, and more. Also, just want to let everybody know that the Lions Club has a food drive that they do to benefit Safe Hope during that time. So let's say you can't get down there to watch the cruise night. At least you can go down there and drop off some food to help Safe Hope. The 3rd, then, there will be the car show. That's an event from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. They'll give away awards in the 3 to 4 time period, but it's free to the public. They'll have for refreshments on hand, as well as food trucks on hand. The Newton Freemason Lodge also has a by donation pancake feed that they're trying to raise money to be able to turn that back around and give that as scholarships and everything else that's going on there. Another thing that I'd like to mention was, well, I guess at this point in time, I want to kick it over to Chad to talk about local news.
Well, you missed a bunch of events that are coming up.
Have at it, Chad.
So,
what are some upcoming events?
Well, I believe it's this weekend, but my memory on the calendar on this one's a little sketchy. But Dick Arboretum's going to have its big spring sale, and also Open Street.
Yeah,
Open Street.
I did
Sunday.
forget Open Street. Yes, I said that last week.
So that's on Oak Street, and the reason that I kind of free associated to that was that the Heston event is considered an Open Street event as well.
Okay.
So that's coming. Also this weekend is the Newton Kansan citywide garage sale. And the forecast is about 50% for rain that day. So we'll see.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Might be inside your garage selling garage sale items instead
or postpone a week or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So there's more stuff on the calendar. Oh, and Thursday night. Let's see. What's today? Today's 23rd,
Today's the
right?
23rd, the Wednesday, the 23rd of April.
Yeah. So we got student written one-act plays, and produced, by the way, at Newton High School, and I think it's called The Map of the Teenage Brain. So
I did. I saw that. I saw that as well.
Yeah. We're in that time of year where there's a lot going on, and a lot of the stuff that is going on gives people kind of short notice that it's gonna happen.
Well, and there's always so many things going on. Once again, we talked about, like, I brought up some stuff. Chad's brought up some stuff. Andy? Do you got any stuff? No, I'm just teasing. I'm razzing. But I try to do a good job of making sure that what events are happening we say something about on the program. I've had people send me messages and say, hey, can you talk about this on the program to let people know it's an upcoming event? So if there's something that that's coming up that you'd like talked about on the program, feel free to send a message. We'll do that at the beginning of the program, just to, I would hate to say get it out of the way, but we just want to be able to let people know in a different way what's going on. So what do you got any local news that you'd like to talk about, Chad?
Newton Med, NMC Health, they hosted a grand opening ceremony yesterday for the expanded emergency room, and that is going to prove to be really big deal for our community.
Yeah.
It just really is.
Well, it's very important. I think we've turned the corner on how we as a society view people that are in immediate need when it comes to mental health crisis. I mean, we did. And I got to throw it over to Andy because I saw a picture of a huge crowd of people that were there, and I saw Andy's smiling face. How was that, Andy?
It was amazing. I mean, to see the community once again come together to provide and meet a major need in our community, and to listen to Val and her leadership and what she's been asking for to help protect her team as well in certain circumstances and situations. I mean, that's the default for crisis is the emergency room. And frankly, they're not built for that because of funding and other things that have happened and how we've reduced servicing mental health issues. And the hospital's been picking up so much.
Yes.
And we're grateful for them. And we have an amazing hospital here that can do that and that does that and that spins so much back into our community in so many different ways. But this one was huge, and it was so good to see so many of our leaders that have built and done so many things and how they work behind the scenes. Again, I just look up there and I'm watching, and all these people that I've been able to be mentored with, and some of them actually probably don't like me, but I respect them and I like them and I appreciate what they do, and I continuously learn and watch how they operate. And to see something this big come together and how they were so gracious to give it back to the community saying, you guys did this. That was really cool to see. They took they gave it all out. It wasn't about them. And that's what this community is at its core.
Yeah.
It's about everybody else. And they did a good job how they mapped that out, how they communicated that. And I was grateful to be in the room with those people. But to see so many leaders come together with that was huge.
Do you guys agree with my statement that we've turned the corner on mental health as a society, or do you think we just are breaking the corner? I mean, I keep saying that, we're turning the corner on this. There was a regional mental health facility groundbreaking that took place maybe a week or two ago that had been long awaited. So our legislature is now getting on board. I think the realization of knowing that this is an issue that has got to be addressed. Do you all feel like we've turned the corner on that, or are we still early in the game?
I'd say we're still early in the game. I mean, we're at a point where we can make statements like, well, let's see where we're at in 5 years. But I really believe, just from a capacity standpoint, we're still going to have a ways to go yet, and especially in the area of juveniles. Because with everything we've got going on, we don't really have any immediate care available for kids. And as much as I love school counselors, they're not our answer. And they never will be our answer.
I agree.
The school counselor is the person that can identify somebody, a young kid, in a crisis situation, and we need to empower them with some resources that they can access and help the kids access. And when I say that, you know that if we ever get basically a walk-in clinic for kids, you know that there's going to be a whole bunch of people who make rules that are going to get in the way. So we've come a long way, but I think we have a long way to go.
Andy?
Talking to Steve Kelly back in the day, I know he's proud of this moment for sure.
Yes.
One of the reasons he moved to Kansas is because of our focus on mental health. And he was really intrigued and supported that. And since then, we've gone way away from it. We were one of the leaders at one point in the state of Kansas, and we are not anymore. This is a move in the right direction. I think we are a good test pilot model state to do some great things. I think we're moving in that direction again. We have mental health is a big deal on a lot of levels. I believe all of us struggle because of our society with some of it somewhere in our lives. Being self-aware is huge, but some of us aren't in a position to be able to step outside of our day-to-day actions to see that. And until we start educating and being okay with having that conversation, especially as guys, to be in particular, because we like to hide a lot of that stuff because it shows weakness, and that culture still exists. And frankly, I was a person that was not helping in that area. But then when you step back and you realize, man, I have some issues myself at a level that I need to be aware. And thank God I have a community around me that can help me through that. But a lot of people don't have that. And so I think there needs to be bigger investments made. I think there's, for Steve, from afar, I'm sure he's cheering this on, excited about what's happened and what Val was able to get pushed through. And Carolyn and some of her efforts, who she's been acknowledged, that's really pushed into this space. And she was up there, and she deserves a lot of credit for what's going on in that space. We have long ways to go. I think the investments need to be made. We've cut back so much money from the past, and I don't know where we reallocated those dollars, but as a society, we really need to step back and realize that we all have issues that we need to deal with, and some of us more than others. And when it's in your family and you're dealing with somebody you love that's struggling and they're not really there anymore, but you know who they are, that's really hard. And we need to be able to support that, and we're not doing that right now. And another thing that exacerbates this is we have veterans that have really sacrificed a lot, and their families sacrifice with them. And there's a lot of things going on in families that they try to hold tight, right? And it's a big psychological blast on so many people when we're not giving them the help that they need. because of what they've chosen to do for us to have our lifestyles. And so I think that does not help. And I think it causes some of the confusion we're seeing today with some of the most basic terms and things that we're trying to overthink when people are feeling certain feelings and then they want to manifest it into being something bigger than what it really is. It's mental health.
Yeah.
And it's a big issue. And I hope that we continue to go this way. And I'm in line with Chad in 5 years. Let's hope that we can keep the horn down, because I do know Senator Owens is going to do that. I know he's very open about the things around him and his lifestyles that he's had to deal with through the years, and how he's a big proponent to making sure we're trying to figure out how to make those investments. And here's the hard part. We don't have a lot of funds for that stuff.
Yeah.
Where is it going to come from?
Yeah.
And I think it's a priority. So we are going to have to learn where to cut to deal with that. And what does that look like? And that's the thing that nobody really wants to discuss, right?
Yeah.
Where's the funds come from?
Where's the fund come from?
Because the schools, sorry, but it's important, because I believe what you said, the schools have boundaries, and the counselor can do some things to start things off, but where are they handing these families off to? And where's the mom and dad sometimes that have issues that are projecting that off on the child for the child to be where they're at, getting help? And how do we identify those needs? Because it's a holistic approach of mental health. It comes from the group as a whole, everybody being involved, pulling for each other and for each other. And unfortunately, there's a lot of gaps there. Yeah. And we got to figure it out. And the school counselor cannot do all of that. They're already overwhelmed as there is. So anyways.
Yeah, well, and, we just continuing down this road, because, I was thinking while you were both responding, and I've often said that addiction and mental health run hand in hand, right? Whether it's because we have a mental health issue to start with, and therefore it's left untreated, unchecked, and then it manifests itself in a way of where people use substances to be able to manage that, which is just kind of like this. It's counterproductive would be the best way to say that. But then you have the other side where you might have somebody that chooses to go down the path of substance use that then develops mental health issues. So when we're talking about mental health, I mean, it's almost like the threshold today of whether someone is in crisis, let's say, would be to self-harm, physically self-harm. Like, you have a patient or an individual who's struggling with mental health issues, and then when they act out in the most unpredictable ways, let's say, they have self-harming statement. We think about killing somebody or ourselves, right? That's when, hey, we've got a problem. But we had a problem long before that, right? So, like, to me, it's almost the culture seems to be such that, well, what would be classified as self-harm? I mean, how many of us engage in self-harming activity, not realizing that is a mental health issue, except for instead of being able to deal with it on a 10% out of 100% situation, we're waiting for it to get to the 80%, the 90% at a critical moment before then we snatch that person up. And things that could be dealt with early on, especially when we're talking about youth, could be something that, hey, early diagnosis is key to any type of a medical problem that we have, whether it be cancer or it doesn't matter. And I still, like you said, Andy, agree that the culture has got to change, as far as we have, and I agree, turn the corner here, but we still do have a long way to go when we look at, well, what is considered self-harming behavior, and then how do we get people to realize, hey, this is not so taboo. It's okay to go and get help. It's okay to go have a conversation with somebody.
Another thing I want to look at that's real important with this issue, Lance, that I think needs to be talked about openly is social media.
Yeah.
And identity today has become such a spotlight on individual that it's easy to look and see what you don't have, or the aura people are putting off online, which is usually not the reality of the situation. But we have such a fight for identity and self-gratification through image And social media has really hurt, I think, our youth in thinking that that's how life is. It's about personal self-identity, which leaves so much on the table for, when you're down or you're hurting and you find a way to serve somebody else, even when you're at your lowest, it does lift you up a little bit. And we're losing that through social media. It doesn't really give you a channel to do that. And how do we train each other to realize, how do you do it with this new network and this new system that we're living in, and teach things that we were taught in a different way growing up, like something as simple as leave the park better than you found it. I sat down at this picnic table, and we leave, it's going to be better than we found it. That was a part of getting out of self for the bigger picture, right? How do you do that on social media? How are we having those conversations with our kiddos? What does that look like? Are you taking the time to send 3 messages to people who maybe need an uplift, right, in that day, to give back in some way through this medium? Because we're not getting rid of it. But I just think it's such a challenge right now with social media and I just talked to one of my mentors today that I looked up to, and I'm struggling with some business stuff, right? Met with him and talked to him about that. And his message today just resonated about identity. Be careful where you're finding your identity and what other people are thinking about, where they think you're at in business or whatever's going on, because we all like to try to live a facade at some level. And it really can hurt you, social, emotional, which causes the mental health issues. Because you're fighting a battle you shouldn't be fighting. And what is your why? What is your purpose? And if we don't come back to those core things, we're going to be chasing images that aren't real, which causes psychosis. It
does. And all the time, identity is key. I've often said that how we see ourselves is our own personal identity, then how other people identify as us. And we live in a world of a lot of projection. It's like oftentimes people will look at me and think that I'm all politics. Well, that's not my identity. I'm all about serving my community, helping in some way or form. And I saw that as an avenue to be able to do that, right? And there's plenty of avenues to do that, but I chose that one. So then the projection is, oh, well, that's all politics. When in all reality, that's like about the believe it or not, is a very small fraction of my identity and who I am as an entire person. And speaking of mental health and NMC groundbreaking and what, turning the corner and what we've talked about, Sheriff Gay had a town hall discussion last Thursday. So of course we weren't really able to talk about that until today. And one of the issues that they're talking about that they need to address when they improve the detention center has to do with individuals that need medical help, not just for people with mental health. He put in there, you have people that are in wheelchairs. You have people that are aging. I mean, there's, people commit crimes at all walks and areas and stages of life, from the youngest to the oldest. So one of the things that they really want to focus in on is providing for there to be more cells that accommodate people that might be in a mental health crisis of some kind. Because what do you do with these people?
Take them to the hospital, which they're not equipped for it either.
They're not equipped for it.
And that's where the funding for mental health institutions needs to come back, but quick, because we're paying for it in other ways.
Oh, yeah.
So we just got to realize the burden we're putting on our teams that are out there serving us every day, which is our hospital staff and our police and fire departments. And we're flooding their systems with people that are, drug-induced, drug-addicted because of mental health issues, and they're trying to self-medicate. Unaware to them, they're just trying to freaking live.
Yeah.
And you talk to 95% of them, and they are great human beings. They're just going through some stuff, and they need support, and we don't have places to give them that. And a lot of them don't want the support at the beginning because they don't want to look at the monster that they've helped manifest.
Yeah. Well, long been said this. People, and this is the wrong way, I'll just say it this way so I don't say it the wrong way. People that are struggling with mental health don't realize, they're not the first one to realize they're struggling with this mental health, right? It's almost like for somebody who's in a mental health crisis to then take a step back and rationally say, I'm in a mental health crisis, that's probably not the way that's going to come to fruition. It's going to be somebody else around them, like Chad. I mean,
sometimes it's the questions you ask.
Well, in a rough estimate, with what you do in youth and making decisions that are, finding themselves in a situation where they have to meet with you, okay, and then you have to determine well, what do we do from this stage forward? How often do you believe, in your own personal opinion, that has to do with some mental health issues?
Quite often. I mean, straight up, one of the questions that appeared on our intake form when they redid all of our software, etc., is now asking, have you ever tried to kill yourself?
Yeah. But doesn't that go back to kind of what I was saying?
You would be amazed how many times I hear a yes.
That I've thought about it.
And no.
I've actually tried to.
Yeah. And you'd be amazed at the age of some of the kids that have said, yeah. And some of them, they're just real matter of fact around it. Yeah. Well, when you get that answer, then you've got more questions. And I think that's one of the places that it's very difficult to phrase this correctly. I think that's one of the places where we as a society need to get better. Those questions, you need to ask them, and you shouldn't be scared to ask them. And then when you get an answer that you don't like, well, yeah. Well, when was that? Oh, about 2 months ago. Okay.
And then here we sit.
Well, yeah. And I'm not going to throw percentages at it. I'm just going to say the vast majority of people that around, y'all not prepared for that. You're just not. But you need to be. Okay? Because, hey, it might be your kid that I'm sitting with. Okay? You've never asked those questions of your kid. They're looking at me like I'm from another planet because I'm asking. They're not expecting it. And so you as just a human being, this is somebody you care about. You don't know how to ask those questions. You don't know how to react. You don't know what to do with them. And so you just leave them.
Yeah.
And it's not just suicide, We need to come to grips with that the people around us, they're dealing with depression. They're dealing with anger. They're dealing, you name a mental health issue, they're probably dealing with it. Okay? Somewhere along the line, somebody needs to step in and help them get help. But we just do not have enough people ready, willing, able to do that very thing. Those school counselors I mentioned earlier, they can do it. But doggone it, they've got so many kids. And then they're going to be stopped short of actually getting that kid help because there's not really a place to get it right now.
Yeah.
And if it's like that for our kids, how many of the adults that that you're sitting in a Sunday school class with, or that random human that just walked in off the street for a church service on an Easter morning? Guys like me take one look at that person and are like, there's some help needed here.
Yeah.
Do I have time to do that before I go to the dinner? I mean, that's very real.
Yeah, in this world, and it's like intermittent.
It's just so when we're talking about it, what we need, what we as Statesians need, are two things. One, we need funded resources to get people help. We also need a lot of education. And we need a lot of people learning how to get help for their friends.
Yeah, and I think
And to not be shy and bashful about asking. We all do it. How are you today?
Oh, I'm grand. I'm great, Chad. How you doing? But I could be having
You see what I'm saying? I mean, we're all okay asking, how you doing today? But when the answer comes back and it's not, oh, I'm okay. Okay? We don't know what to do.
Well, and that's another thing.
And I'm that guy, man. I mean, you guys know me. When's the last time you saw me and say, hey, how you doing today? And I'm like, oh, I'm great. Life is good.
And I think perspective is important too, though, right? And there's that place of, are you equipped to help?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no training on that.
And then a lot of times, am I in a place to be able to, not about being equipped, because frankly, I am. I spent 12 years in that industry, right? I'm equipped. I live with it. But am I in a position myself to take that on, or I will end up in a place? And that's the self-awareness piece. Yeah, and you don't want the wild guiding the wild either.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that has to be consumed there. It's not as easy as just, hey, should I? It's like, can I?
Yeah.
And it's not that you want to. It's just sometimes you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because you've got to keep your mask on. So you can start helping others. But sometimes, like, I've been very direct with you guys. I have my mask on right now. And there's times I will pour out like crazy. But right now, I'm sorry. I just can't.
Yeah.
There's things going on in the things that I'm doing, and I have my mask on. And I will come up eventually, but right now I can't. And you have to know that for self. Until more people start doing that, trying to reach across it and helping others is only going to cause more issues. And you get two unhealthy people trying to feed each other a mass that then the car's bouncing so hard they don't realize they got to turn it around and put it on their own face for a little while.
Yeah.
That can get wild. Imagine a busload of them.
Yeah. Well, and you never, and truth be told, if you're not in a position to help, it's okay to say, hey, I'm not in a position to help. Let's just take it back to money, okay? Because we've talked about money a little bit here. I'd love to help a lot of people, but I'm not in a financial situation where I can do that. I help when I can, right?
Yeah.
But I can't not pay my own rent, not pay my own car payment, not be able to feed my kids for trying to help somebody else up in this world. I mean, I've got to be able to help myself before I can be in a position to help somebody else. So,
correct.
And speaking of, we've talked about the Harvey County Detention Center and their need for some new cells, and we've talked about mental health, and something happened at the Sedgwick County Correctional Facility that I think should feed further into this conversation. And, I remember Sheriff Jeff Easter saying not too many years ago, probably within the last 2 years for certain, that a huge population of people that they house are there because or do have mental health issue because of or do have a mental health issue. And recently they decided there at the jail that they were no longer going to allow for there to be hot pots at all, because, and if you don't know what a hot pot is, it's kind of like a coffee pot except for it just heats up water, okay? And they're designed to not heat them up hot, right? Just to be like a lukewarm, just warm, right? So therefore, if that got spilled on anybody or anything that nature, then it wouldn't hurt anybody. But there are ways that you can alter those, because people with lots of time on their hand can figure out how to alter those things, the sensors on them, and then it turns into a boiling hot pot, okay? One of the inmates threw boiling water on one of the officers and hurt them, and therefore their response to that is no more hot pots, okay? And I've even known that people can get more creative with that, like, for instance, putting baby oil in them, or it could have been a lot worse than what it actually turned out to be. But going back to this, not knowing the situation, and just moving on with the mental health after this here, but I have another question. If you're an individual that is incarcerated and you concoct some idea in your mind that you want to throw boiling water on somebody, is that a mental health issue?
It could be. Where's that coming from?
And then knowing that you're going to be in
it's-
trouble for that, so therefore, isn't that a self-harming choice?
It could be. It very much could be.
I mean, what's going on in this person's mind?
Who knows? I mean, straight up, I would love to sit down and do a mental health first aid assessment on the guy. I'll be straight, man. I took that class like 5 years ago. I need to take it again. I've actually taken it once for just general and once for juveniles. And dude, it changed me. It equipped me. So the first one I took was taught by Everett Bradley. What an absolutely phenomenal human being. This community needs to keep that dude. You know. And it was sponsored by Prairie View and the Harvey County Health Department. And you know, I don't think there's a person out there that wouldn't benefit from going through that class. Even just reading the book. You know? I employ those. I employ the things that I learned during that in just about every single juvenile intake I do. And the kids, they don't even know.
Yeah.
They have no clue. Now, it's pretty obvious when somebody looks at you and say, hey, have you ever attempted to commit suicide? It's pretty obvious what you're asking and what you're going for. But all the other stuff, they don't have a clue. They really don't.
Yeah. Mental health matters, folks. Mental
health matters a lot. And I once saw a statistic, and I can't pull it up right now, but straight up, every dollar that we spend as a society, and yes, I'm talking about tax dollars, every dollar we spend on mental health and mental health support actually is going to save us money over the long haul.
I agree. 100%.
It's just the way it is.
It's same thing. Same rule applies. If we can get people to a position where they are no longer in active addiction and are able to leave the substance behind, be in recovery, that the likelihood of us paying more as a society to help that individual, to treat that individual, medical costs, the whole thing, is greatly decreased. Okay, moving on from this, and I don't think that we got dark here or anything. I honestly think it was an important discussion to have. Something has come to my attention that I think we should cover again. I call it the BESS MESS in Halstead, but there has been some movement there, not on the actual decisions that have been made about whether or not to allow it, planning and zoning. We're in no real different situation than when we were before, except for recently there was a recall campaign that was initiated against Dennis Travis, who's the mayor. Mm-hmm. And that, the long story short is, the longer story made shorter is that it was unsuccessful. So received some paperwork that talked about the initial petition for recall of Mayor Dennis Travis. They talked in there, just to paraphrase some stuff, that he was not acting in his official capacity the way that he should, that he was dereliction of duty, et cetera, et cetera. But I wanted to really discuss this aspect of it, okay? They went through, there's a group of people, the No Best group of people. The names are obvious for the people that are really out there on social media against it. They put forth a recall petition, but the reality is you can't recall somebody for doing their job because you don't like the way that they're doing their job.
Well, yeah, the county attorney issued 2 different letters on this one, and in both basically stated that the petitioners and in one case, the would-be petitioners had not created a petition that was valid.
So they need some process.
Yeah.
Well, they came back and did another one and fixed the
yes,
errors.
but both letters made that statement.
Yeah.
Both the pre and the post.
How many people were on this petition?
Don't know. That's the one thing I've been running too hard because
I get it. I'm not holding you down.
So I'm gonna be making a request because I want to see, at a minimum, I want to see the cover of the petition to know what it is that they have to make a statement of why they want to recall someone.
Yeah.
And
I would love to hear the whole.
Sure.
I don't know much about it. I know you've been paying attention to it, both of you guys. I've heard a little bit just through you guys pretty much, and then some friends I have out there in that area. It's pretty interesting. I mean, it's all good to activate and do what you got to do if you think there's a problem, but you got to follow the process and do it right. And you got to be careful also how you do it, because you could discredit yourself in the process too if you're just overreacting. And I don't know what that is, because it feels like, as an outsider looking in, they're in a very preliminary kick the tires stage.
They are.
And
they are.
That to me is pretty extreme unless there's some real hardcore violations. And if there is, they're following the process, so they'll surface that. Because again, I'm not one way or the other on this. I'm just looking from the outside in, from the little community talks that we've had, and I also am a component of economic development. Probably I lean that way too much for some people, and that's just how I'm wired. So sorry if you're not for that stuff, but I like to try to make things work if I can. Yeah. And so for me, it's starting to feel like a thorn, unless there's good communication of why. Because then I could be turned as, oh, I didn't know that, but what is that? Yeah. What is that piece?
Yeah.
And I haven't heard that yet, other than there's people concerned about a 0.0001% chance of something happening.
Yeah. And that's relevant. I get that. I watching this discussion transpire, knowing that we are in fact in the very early stages. There are people that are obviously for it,
right,
obviously against it,
right.
But it's this thing to me that seems like a real reach, which is, I may not like what an elected official is doing or the choices that they are making, but that does not mean, just because I don't like the choices that they make, that they're not doing their job because they're doing something that I don't want them to do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a real issue there.
I have friends that are city commissioners in both of those cities, actually. And I'm more closely to Newton. And I have friends that have made decisions that I didn't like. Move on. For me.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't agree with everything. And if I'm being honest with the people I care about, they don't agree with everything I do either. But the thing is when a decision's made, a decision's made. And frankly, I've also learned that I don't invest in the city enough for me to have a say-so.
Yeah. Well, do you
so
remember?
I stay in my lane because there's some things I don't know, and you don't, unless you're involved, even people that believe they're involved, there's some things that go on behind the scenes, and not transparent, but for protection of certain things that you can never talk about or say the way you want to. And you just got to let it die.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do because you want to give information you're not supposed to sometimes, and you just can't.
Well, I'm taking it back. I don't know if you all remember how closely you watched the wind energy debate.
I remember that one.
Remember #recall Randy, right? So the same pathway and the same things that are going on this time were the same things that were going on last time, just for a different subject matter. And to me, at the whole recall Randy, God bless his heart, he's no longer a Harvey County commissioner. But it's like, just because you don't, I mean, I could say it again, and I'm going to say it again. We constantly see this, impeach this person, right? this person should not be elected. This person should be impeached.
One of the themes.
You know, it's this whole like theme. Like, this is a good way to put it. Is that, well, if I don't agree with what President Trump is doing, he should be impeached. Or if I don't agree with what Biden's doing, he should be impeached. Except for the fact that they are acting well within the parameters of what their duties are. In fact, in many cases, doing a little bit too much, if you want to look at it that way, of their job. So therefore, to say, there's certain criteria. I mean,
there
have
are
to be
criteria.
Incapacitated is one of them.
That's why people don't like to volunteer these days. Honestly.
Yeah.
No, there are criteria. Here's the key paragraph. Travis is accused of failing to perform. If the petition is alleging misconduct in office, the statute requires a violation of law and that the violation impacts his ability to perform the official duties of office. So if they have not shown, and I'm not saying they have or they haven't, okay? If they have not shown a violation of law, you do not have a legal petition. It's and they cited a Supreme Court case somewhere along the line here, and
the opinion of the county attorney.
And in the opinion of the county attorney, she says the possibility that conduct similar to Mayor Travis's conduct could be unlawful, but the petition fails to set forth sufficient facts to satisfy the test articulated by the Supreme Court. So again, you do not have there's rules to this.
Yeah. Yeah,
okay?
Another one is incapacitation. I know that if I was an elected official and I got into a car accident and I was in a coma, right? I can't withdraw my name. I mean, I'm in a coma. So then a recall petition could be put forth at that point in time to say, hey, this person has suffered an accident, so a medical condition is preventing them from being able to uphold the duties that they are sworn to uphold. That's another reason. But you once again, you can't just go out here because I don't like you and decide I want you recalled. That's what elections are for, right? You go make your case at the time and the place.
You can do it. You can do it.
Well, yeah,
it's not that you can't
it's
do
permissible.
Yeah, right? I mean, chances are you're going to waste your time. Okay? And then you're going to waste the county attorney's time, and you're going to waste the county clerk's time, to be honest. I mean, there's nothing preventing you from making a request and working on the petition.
You could do it because
going and getting the hundreds of signatures that you need and turning it in. But when you turn it in, then the county clerk and the county attorney have to review it, and if it meets legal standards, it meets legal standards. If it don't, it don't. Right now, the people of Halstead have not submitted a petition in the county attorney's opinion that meets the legal standard.
Period.
That's it.
So then this conversation has continued to go on. I hope that both entities continue to be, well, I don't know the transparency on one side versus the other because I'm not going to pick sides here, but I hope that going forward, these discussions happen in a more transparent way. So that way people can be aware of both sides. Like, I'm here. I want to know both sides of what's going on. Therefore, I can come to an educated, informed conclusion of some kind rather than all this other stuff that's going on is kind of taking away. Like Andy said, it's quite possible you're making your position a little bit weaker, and it looks like you might be grasping at straws. I didn't put those words in your mouth. Well, that's not what we're saying, but I mean, you know,
I'm saying that. I mean, it could do that, and you know, I talk to people that I work with all the time. When I bark at a bus, I need to make sure people know I'm barking at a bus. And if you bark at every bus that passes by, eventually people turn you off. And so that's a really important thing because there are a lot of things I don't like that I don't say anything about. I got to pick my battles. And is this a battle that people are willing to pick? And if so, you got to be out up front. This is a public situation. You're going to impeach somebody. You better be out talking about why you want that done. And if there's any kind of, I got to hide this conversation because I got some super secret motive and I can't have people find out all these little details and stuff, but you're I mean, if it's public, it's public.
Yeah. Yeah. And this conclusion just
And
came
the reason
this
I'm
week.
saying
Yes.
that is because there's groups that you've tried to be a part of that you've been not allowed to be a part of to hear the conversation. Chad, I think you've been through the same thing. And you're media, so if somebody had a case, you would want to go to media with that.
Yeah.
But an editor of a paper in our local area, I mean, if there's something there, he's going to sniff it out.
Yeah.
Plead your case. But if you're not allowing that to happen, that to me is already watering down the Kool-Aid, if you will.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in distaste. I don't know any of these people that are involved. I don't know their names. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at this going, if you got a case, the cool thing about this country is you can build it. But where's the first place people go when they have a real issue that they're not feeling heard?
To their media.
Boom.
You would think so.
What the heck, man?
But please don't forget, I've been through this over and over and over and over again.
Dang it.
Okay?
I don't got those T-shirts. I don't want them either.
I've wrote
I
this
might need
circular.
one. I mean, and here's the deal. With every single, we'll call it economic development project. That's what we'll call it. With every single one of those that come down the pipe, there will be a group of people who very early in the process will look at that and say, I do not want that. They will be completely against it. And there will be no changing their mind. Okay?
Yep.
I mean, straight up.
And that's their right. They can be
it is-
opposed to it if they want to be opposed
It is
to it.
their right. Okay? But again, I mean, seriously. The Sand Creek Station last year hosted the National/World Championships of Adaptive Golf.
It was really cool.
I can't imagine anybody who took more than 3 minutes of time to take a look at that would say that was bad. But you still have people who are madder than a hornet that golf course was ever built.
Even though it makes money now. I mean, if people knew,
Okay.
it's making money.
It's bringing
I mean,
so many people
yes.
to this area that wouldn't come here.
Yes. And when we're talking making money, like when I heard how much money it made, I thought, my goodness, I can't believe that a golf course generates that kind of revenue.
So, I mean, that's my example, right? It doesn't matter what the project is. That's the way it goes down. And there will be a group that will be against it, staunchly against it, and you will never change their mind. Ever.
Sadly so.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
somebody that wants my mind to be changed. If I believe something a certain way, please change my mind. It's a challenge for me. I'm okay with looking at things from a different perspective. I mean, there's very few things, and that would be considered core beliefs, that you're just not going to move me on. I believe it. It's a core belief. You're not going to change. You may be able to help me understand your side of the argument, but there are certain things that we as individuals believe absolute. Like, for instance, my faith. I'm a Christian. You are not going to change my mind on that. I will understand where you're coming from. I will open the door for you to be able to exercise your own faith. But there is nothing you're going to say. There is nothing you're going to do that is ever going to change my mind. And speaking of that, Easter. We just had Easter. Did you guys do anything with family and friends for Easter?
I tried to, yeah. I mean, again, I'm in
You
a,
had a thing going
I'm
on.
in a tunnel, but I got some me time, which was much needed. I tried to de-stress, and it was a big message for me personally, and of renewal.
Yeah.
What does that look like for me? Where I'm at in this stage of my life, I'm doing the midlife crisis thing. I think a little bit, and going, okay, I'm a little over halftime, probably halftime. What does this look like? What is the second half with all of these great experiences and tools that I have? Is God, am I where He needs me? Am I where He wants me? Am I growing to be the person I was built to be? And I got a lot of time to just ponder on those things. And it shook me up a little bit, but I'm still working.
Time of reflection and renewal.
Yep.
Yep.
Trying to figure out what that looks like for me. But it was good.
Chad?
Well, Easter, wow. I did a 40-day Lent Bible study with my small group, my men's small group.
Really cool.
It was really cool. Really cool. So you talk about the introspection. I had 40 days of that. 40 days. I realized that while I thought I was on the bunny slope of the backside of the life, on my skis, I'm more on the black diamond. I am racing. I am absolutely racing towards the end of my time here on this planet. And that's scary. So the challenge is, what are you going to do with it? And then for Easter itself, I received a huge blessing, and my family went and had an Easter meal with Ben and Grace Smith. And if you haven't met Ben or Grace Smith of Heston, Kansas, it's okay, because they're noobs. They haven't been around Heston, Kansas all that long. But they are the founder of Camp David International, which is something that is absolutely phenomenal over in Heston, along with a number of members of the staff of Camp David. And it was an absolutely blessed time. During that meal, Ben looked around and asked, who in the Easter story do you identify with the most? So when I say we had dinner, we chewed on a heck of a lot more than the lamb that I took over there, right? I actually never answered that question during the dinner, but I'll answer for you now. And the truth of the matter is, as I pondered the kind of what I would call 90% of the Easter story, because the truth of the matter is the entire Bible is the Easter story. But as I pondered all of that, and I'm thinking about the characters in what most people would call the Easter story, I identify most with Simon Peter in the Garden of Gethsemane. He lost his temper. He was impulsive. And he went to defend someone who didn't need defending. And I feel like that's me 100% all day long. I can be very impulsive. I can lose my temper. And I can jump in and try and defend someone who probably doesn't need my help.
So if you see Chad walking around with the sword, cover both your ears.
Yes. Cover your ears.
Okay.
Or hope that Jesus is close by to you to
heal your ear. And then speaking of Easter, and I know everybody around the world is completely aware at this point in time, but Pope Francis died at 88 the day after Easter. And I don't know if it was in the early morning hours. So basically there was the Easter celebration. Very next day, Pope Francis passes away. If you haven't ever watched the process of how the Catholic Church chooses a new pope, and they go into what's called a conclave, I believe.
Yes.
It's worth watching. I watched it very extensively when Pope John, or it would have been, I'm thinking losing his name, but Ratzinger was his priest name, and then he became a pope. So I'm fumbling here, but anyway, I watched that whole process when they picked him as the pope, and I thought, wow, this is something that has continued for hundreds of years, the way they work through this process to pick a new pope. So all eyes on that. That will be probably dominating the media over the next week or so. It's worth a watch. It's very symbolic. There's a lot going on there. So, all right. Well, we are coming to the end of the program. Unless you guys want to say anything about Pope Francis that passed away at 88, go ahead and say that. Otherwise, just what's your final word, gentlemen?
Final word. Right now, we are entering one of the crazy seasons of the year. We're going to be in it until graduation. And graduation is returning home this year, and I'm actually kind of excited about that. There you go.
Andy,
Have a good week.
have a good week.
Yep. Stay in the fight.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking of everything we talked about, my final word, I'm just going to reserve it to talk about how you can drop it's a DEA National Take Back Day. It's in partnership with the Harvey County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Chad Gay will be hosting a drop-off site for National Prescription Drug Take Back Day on Saturday. You can stop by the Law Enforcement Center, 120 East 7th Street in Newton between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Leave medications you no longer need for proper disposal. It's free and there's no questions asked. The event helps ensure prescriptions aren't lost, stolen, or misused in the community. That's my final word. Have a good one, everybody.
Great chat, guys.